Today we're going to be flying the Lockheed Super Constellation. We're going to be doing a manual startup, not using any AI. We're going to be flying from Santa Barbara down to Burbank. So let's go ahead and jump on into the cockpit and get us fired up and ready to go. So first thing you're going to want to do is come on over to your clipboard, and we're going to go ahead and, so we're on normal. I like to turn off all the sort of like seats and everything on there, not using any GPS. Ground fuel, we're doing a normal flight, so that is just going to be the national flight. We're not going very far. You can see we are currently out of our center of gravity, but that is because nobody is loaded on. If you want to, we're going to skip that, but if you want to, during the checklist, there is the part where you're going to load up the stairs, load up the door, go through the rest of your checklist and all that sort of stuff. If you want to skip that, you can just go instant payload. That gets everybody on board, and you are really kind of good to go. Before we fire up, we want to make sure that remove before flying is turned off. I just wanted to check. Yeah, we don't have our wingtip fuel tanks on because I don't like the way this aircraft looks with them. So that's sort of step one of the checklist. What I recommend you do, though, is if you go to Red Wing's website, you can download the PDF of the checklist versus looking at it on here. And you get a better sense of what's going on by looking at it on a different screen instead of always popping back and forth. So I just have that open on my laptop. Status page just shows us that really nothing is active right now. Orders are where you want to turn on if you want AI of the flight engineer, pilot, or co-pilot. If you want any failures set up, you can turn that on as well, which we're not doing. So let's go ahead and hop on over to our flight engineer sort of electrical panel here. First thing we want to do is make sure that the battery is turned on. Then we are going to get our dome light on. And then we want to come back over to where our clipboard is, but also our light panel, and get our nav light on as well. From there, we are going to go to our radio and instrument switches, which is back over at our engineers section here. And we just want to make sure that all of those are in their on up position. If they are not on, you can see that the little breaker light will be on, saying, hey, this isn't ready to go. From there, we can come on up to our panels here. And you want to make sure that these are all on. Today we are currently going to fly from Santa Barbara over to the Fillmore VOR, head down to intercept the Burbank ILS, and then do an ILS approach. So the Fillmore VOR is 112.5, and then the ILS is going to be 109.5. Then if we come down to our main view here, we just want to make sure that we get the course loaded up correctly. So we're going to basically head east to intercept the radial of 87, which will take us over to the Fillmore VOR. From there, we're going to pass it and turn down to 136, so fly out from Fillmore VOR, and then we're going to intercept the ILS. So we've got our radios set. This is where you now want to make sure ground power is turned on. So we come over to our clipboard, and on this page we can go ahead and click on ground power. If we head back on over to our flight engineers station here, we can turn on cart power and then rotate this up to cart, and you'll see, boom, there we go, we have cart power. Sometimes this illuminates, sometimes it doesn't. I'm not quite sure why, but then we need to check our boosters. So if we come over to our main view, down here you have your boosters for your rudder and your aileron, and then down here is the booster for the elevator. So we can go ahead and make sure that that is I believe they want that on. Elevator booster, check, on. Yep, so on. Then we can come on up and we're going to set our ordnance lights, get those good to go. This is where you would ask for stairs, get the boarding going. If you just scooch back a little bit here, this is where you have your dump valves and emergency shutoff. You want to make sure the dump valves are currently closed, and then that all these are set to on the emergency shutoff. So we can go ahead and bring those down. There we go. And engine 4. So from engine 4, we're going to come on over and turn on our fuel. So we head over to our engineer's sort of fuel station. And we want those guys up. Yeah, tank 3, tank 2, yep. So these two are in the middle. This is 2A. You want it in on tank 3 and 2 are in the sort of middle position. These guys are also, you can see that those are on the top part there. Then we're going to set our cow flaps. So if you look down here, we're going to make sure that those come all the way up to 100. There we go. There we go. And last one. There we are. Then you're going to get your carburetor air up to cold. And then your cooler flaps, you want to make sure that those are at 100 as well. So 100, 100, 100, 100. So I normally don't fly with these tooltips on, but it does help for this aircraft to see what things are set at, and also to get everything familiarized. From here, we are going to, if you want to, you can check the, over here is all your fuel sort of emergency fire warning system. Next step would be close all doors and remove stairs, which we don't need to do. And then we are pretty much, we're going to come over here and make sure that we remove all these guys here. This one's always a pain to click on. You have to like click all the way over there on it. From there, we can go ahead and turn on our position lights, which are essentially strobe lights. There we go. So down here you have those. Go ahead and tick those on, and then we can come over and actually fire up the engine. So we're going to come over to the sort of electrical panel here, and then the simplest way to do this, which if you want to, you can come on up here and just turn all your magnetos over to both, but I'll show you how it kind of is supposed to be done. So you're going to come over and turn to 3. They're going to start counting up to 6.
1, 2,
you can go ahead and click the
3,
engine start button.
4, 5, 6.
Come up to the top and rotate over to both. And it should fire up. There we go. So then we're going to come on down to here again, and then we're going to turn on generator 3. Then we're going to switch over to starter number 4. Same thing. They're going to go ahead and count down.
1, 2,
Click
3,
the start button.
4, 5, 6.
Up to the top, rotate over, and it'll fire up. There we go. Same again. Generator on. Now we can go ahead and switch over to 2. They're going to count down.
1,
or count
2,
up, really.
3, 4, 5, 6.
Go ahead and turn that over to both. Come on back down. Generator on. Check to make sure that comes up. Then rotate over to engine 1. Start.
1, 2, 3,
Come up to the top.
4, 5, 6.
Rotate over to both. There we go. Engine's fired up. Just one last generator to turn on. So there we go. Now we just want to make sure pitot covers are on board, which they are. and then we can ask for the ground power to be turned off. Come back over to our panel here, and we want to turn off cart power, and then go ahead and rotate. Didn't mean to rotate that one. We want to rotate over to battery. I don't think phase. I haven't seen phase anything on here. That's for ground power. Instruments checked. Yep. Okay. So then if we come down to here, this is where you want to get your autopilot started to, I guess, spin up, for lack of a better term. You're going to hit that, and it needs to count up for 2 minutes to get the gyros set. So you're going to get that set. They'll call it out when it is ready. Taxi lights are kind of like your land lights as well, landing lights. So just go ahead and pop those on, and then we want to make sure that they are extended. Then check altimeters. So we come on down. I am flying with live weather, so I'll hit B, and then that's going to set our altimeter. Now that the engine's running, though, you can see we are sort of like bouncing around a little bit here. We want to go ahead and get our RPMs up to just over 1500. And you watch, once they get over it, everything's going to stop jiggling here for us. There. So now we're nice and smooth. Taxi lights on. Yep. Okay, so we are pretty much ready for our taxi. The only other thing that we need to do is come on over to here, and we want to make sure that these guys are clicked onto high. And we can also come on up here and arm auto feather. In case we had an engine failure during takeoff, it would automatically feather. I just go ahead and sync the props now, which it looks like they already were. You can always check that by looking at these guys here, which are good to go.
Got the gyro engaged.
So there you go. There's our autopilot set. I don't know what I just clicked there, but that's okay. That's off. RPM. Include RPM, include... Oh, that's right. We want it to sync off number 1. So there we go. All right. So from there, we can go ahead and taxi. So we're going to come back to our main view here. We're taking off runway 25, which is just over here. I'm just going to raise our view up just a little bit here if I can. Being a pain. There we go. Have a quick check around. Let's have a look on the outside. So we'll pretend that truck's not there, because our wing is definitely going to clip it. But if we go ahead now with our engine already kind of spooled up here, and actually we're a little high on the RPMs because it does tend to get away from you if you're not careful with those RPMs. So when you hit your parking brake off, which is here, you're going to start rolling. So I typically turn it off and go ahead and hit the brakes until I'm ready to go. And then I check to make sure that all my flight controls are kind of calibrated and, just kind of ready to roll. So we're going to go ahead and start rolling on over. So once we take off, our power settings for a normal climb. Actually, did I put my flaps down? I did not. So once we get over 500 feet, we'll bring those flaps back up. Once we have a positive rate of climb, we'll raise our gear. But then we need to adjust our power for our climb, which is going to be 2,500 RPMs and 34 inches of manifold pressure. So let's go ahead and get onto the runway. We've already got lights and everything set, boosters armed, auto feather is good, mixture set, air conditioning, not really worried about it, it's superficial, and then fuel pumps 1, 2, and 3, and oil cooler is also set. So get this guy turned over here, use a little bit of differential brakes there. Rotation speed with our weight, which is currently at about 120,000 pounds, is going to be around 105, 108. So we're going to bring RPMs all the way forward, and then we're just going to go ahead and bring up the power. Go ahead and release the brakes. And the engineer and radio operator is going to call out when we rotate and no-go speeds.
No-go speed.
There we are, so we can go ahead and rotate. Alright, positive rate of climb. Go ahead and bring our gear up. There's 200 feet. $400 feet. 500 feet, flaps coming up.
Roger, flaps up.
So we can go ahead now and bring our power back down to 34 inches.
Flaps up.
And then our RPMs we want to bring down to 2,500. And now we can start to trim out. We're going a little fast because I was not really climbing at the correct rate, but we're looking for around 170 knots in our climb. And we can go ahead and start our left turn. I'm going to go ahead and pop this clipboard away because we no longer need it. Just get my RPMs where I want them to be. Keep an eye out to really kind of what we want to do is line up with the outbound of runway heading. So we're just going to keep on turning over until we're kind of lined up with, really it's runway 7 what we took off from, or sorry, runway 25, but we're looking to line up with runway 7 at about 70 degrees until we intercept that VOR. Which got our instruments on, but for some reason we haven't captured it yet. Then we got Santa Barbara just off to our side here, so go ahead and start to bank over, level off. Now I want to climb up to about 7,000 feet, so let's go ahead and engage the autopilot. We're going to go ahead and turn that on.
Autopilot is engaged.
You do need your clutch on as well, and that'll turn it on. So that's just going to hold us level. You can see our airspeed is already climbing like crazy. So we want to turn that on, and then this pitch wheel will adjust our vertical speed. So we just want to climb on up. We're just going to level off at 7,000. I want to double check our radio here. 1125. That is correct. So we're just a little further out so far. I'm going to show you how to bank over a little bit because I want to get on a little bit different heading. So keeping an eye on our elevation here. So this is your heading mode, really. You can't set like an actual degree heading, but you can bank it on over, and that's going to bank you over. I really kind of want to be heading that way. So we're coming up to 6,500. I'm looking for roughly, we already kind of went out far, so I'm going to go over to 60 degrees. So as we're coming up to 7,000, you can start to reduce your angle or your pitch. I'm going to go ahead and rotate us back to center there. And then you can take this and actually get it back into the center and it'll level out, or you can just click off that and it's just going to hold you at that altitude. Either way, it will keep you relatively level. So now we're heading out. We need to set our cruise. So according to the performance chart with the manual that is given to you, we are looking for our cruise power, and we are looking to be they give you 5,000 and 10,000 for setting, so we're kind of in between those. So your RPMs need to be between 1,600 and 1,800. We'll just split the difference and call that 1,700, so we'll bring that down to 1,700. Tell that's going to sound much nicer. We can bring our power back up to that sort of 34, and then we can lean out a little bit. So watch our RPM gauges here, and as we're leaning, actually we're low enough now where the auto mixture is still on, so that's fine. Even though, yeah, 10,000 is where you need to lean. Auto rich is enabled when you're below that. So we should be roughly around, I'm gonna say right around 200-ish. No, sorry, about 5,000 feet is 152. 10,000 is 208, so in between that be about 175-ish. So if we come on down and look at our airspeed, let's see if that matches up. No, we're way over that. $152, low. Oh, you know what we can do is come on over here. These guys can come down to low now. And we also need to get our cowl flaps closed. Let me get into my normal view here. That's better. Cowl flaps closed. Make sure those are all at 0. And then we can go ahead and turn these guys off. And then you can see that our... let's see if turning those off. I want greens on everything. There we go. So those are coming up now into the green. And pressure is in the green as well. We're currently at 1,700 RPMs. And fuel flow, we're 750. which is a little high, so I think we need to bring down our manifold pressure here. They want us to be at between 430 and 465, so right there. So there's our manifold pressure set now. Now, we did pick up the Fillmore VOR, so as soon as that needle starts coming over, what you want to do is come down to your autopilot, and here is basically like your nav approach selector. So right now we're just flight path off, which means we're just holding steady. Once we see that needle start to come over towards the center, we'll go ahead and click this over to the upwards position, and that is going to be for your basically your nav mode. All the way over to the right is basically your approach mode. There we are. Everything is nicely configured now. Our airspeed is actually more accurate to what was supposed to be at, which is a little bit below 200. And then if we come on to the outside, one thing I forgot to do is bring up our landing lights, which technically they would have been ripped off at this speed. But you can see we don't have any smoke coming out. Everything's looking very nice and we're configured. So let's come on up to the top here, and we're going to go ahead and turn off landing lights and retract. And then that should be fine. We can go ahead and also turn off our ordnance night lights to let everyone know that we are in cruise. All right, so we're coming over now. You can see this needle is starting to slowly move over. I'm going to let it get a little bit closer. Our airspeed is spot on now for what they were quoting. Yep. We're about 190. We're supposed to be in between 150 and 210, and we're at 7,000 feet. So I would say that that is pretty darn close for our fuel flow and our actually, where's our fuel flow at now that we've kind of balanced out a little bit here? Fuel flow. Actually, it's still a little high, so we can bring that manifold pressure back a little bit more. There we go. All right. So there we are configured, coming up on the nav here. So we'll go ahead and click over, and you'll watch now we're going to bank to intercept our 87 degrees to Fillmore. All right, so you can see we're all configured, flying along nicely. We're going to be heading out to that Fillmore VOR. Once we hit that, we'll adjust our course to intercept the ILS, which we need to fly out at 136 degrees. But otherwise, we are good to go. Okay, so we're getting pretty close to the Fillmore VOR. I'm going to keep an eye on my OBS indicator here, my CDI. Once I see that jump, I'm going to immediately turn, there it is. So we need to now turn this over to 136, and then it's going to go out, and then you can see we're going to take our turn. Now this is going to turn us, southeast to intercept the VOR, which is the first point on the approach chart that we're looking for. It's actually a waypoint called T Oaks, which obviously we can't put in T Oaks, but flying out on the 136 radial, once we hit, and we're watching over here now, this is our nav 2, which has the ILS. So once we see that start to creep in, you know, I don't know, I haven't tested this out yet, but if this will swap over so that way we're then flying on nav 2 or not. So we'll try that first. And you can see we're now picking up that 136 radial there. And I will say the autopilot works fairly well in this for how basic it is. I haven't really run into any issues. Sometimes you're a little low on the ILS because I think really it's just a big plane and you're going slow and it takes it a little bit to really do its thing. Now, we need to descend though down to 3,700 feet. So let's go ahead and get that started. The way we're going to do that is actually we're going to come back over to the autopilot altitude hold. We're going to turn that on, and then we're going to start to nose down, and you can see that our vertical speed is starting to nose down. So we'll obviously see our speed increase, which is fine because we have plenty to work with here. So the first sort of waypoint is actually where we pick it up is at 3,000, and we've got plenty of time to get there. So once we hit 3,700, we'll hit T Oaks and then drop us down the other sort of 700 feet. And over we go, we're passing 5,500. And I'm just going to keep an eye on our manifold pressure as we're sort of coming down, because that technically should increase a little bit. So this is good. We're right around that 260. 4,500. We're just about to hit there. So let's try and click over. Yep, and it does. It selects for the ILS. So we just hit T Oaks. So we can actually continue on down to our 3,000. I'm going to slow us down a little bit though. I don't really want to go below 1,500 RPMs while we're doing this descent. Burbank is going to be over probably right where that window is there. Now you can see we haven't quite picked up the glide slope yet, but we are below it. So coming up to 3,000 feet, and I'm going to go ahead and actually I want to keep that on, but I want to bring this down so we are no longer descending. We are a little low, so let's go ahead and bring that back up. Now, since we're already tuned in onto the approach, I'm going to go ahead and actually select over now onto the approach. So once we hit that glide path, we will be good. Now, we're going to go ahead and start to slow down. So I'm going to actually bring our power back quite a bit. Really, I'm coming almost all the way back to idle. Because we want to get down to about 140, 150 to start engaging our flaps. I'll tell you what I want to do is let's come on up here. We're going to go ahead and get this so it's a little easier for me to see. 109.5. And then our course for that is 79 degrees, so we can come on over and set that to 79. And then we can click back on over. And we're going to now be on, we can look at both really, but since we're over this side, it's a lot easier to, oops, sorry, I'm jumping around here on all my buttons. Let's get a little nose up here. So there we are. We've slowed down. That's actually like the little stall warning there. So we're going to go ahead and pop in first degree of flaps and start to bring. Now we want to bring our RPMs all the way up for landing. And then we can control our throttle a lot better. So we just
60% set.
we can go ahead and pick up our ILS now on the glide slope. You can see this is picked up. And we'll start our descent down. And we're looking for around 140 knots. So just going to keep that in there. We can see the runway just up front here. At 2,000 feet is when we'll lower our landing gear. We also can come over to our main station here and we can turn our pumps to high. And then we can also get our... Actually, our auto feather has been armed the whole time. Alright, so we're looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and come to 80 degrees flaps.
Flaps 80% set.
Not quite sure we're not following the glide path, though. I think we are. We're just... Yeah, it's catching up to it now. And that's still getting away from us. Let's try and slow us down a little. No, it can't go much slower than we already are. So like I said, sometimes we're a little high, sometimes we're a little low. There's the runway. It's bouncing around with our vertical speed. It's trying to get us there. Go flaps 100. And gear down. Actually, I forgot to do that at 2,000.
Flaps 100%.
Bring the throttle in a little bit here as we slow down too much. Now, I haven't checked the weather, but we're going to go ahead and at this point turn off.
Pilot is disengaged.
Turn off. Need to start to slow down, and we are a little too high.
500 feet. $400. $300. $200. $100.
No, I doubt we're going to need our reverse thrusters on here, but I just came to idle.
30. 20.
There's the wheels down. Front.
There we go, speed.
There we are. Just applying the brakes.
Speed down.
There we are. We can go ahead and bring our flaps up.
Roger, flaps up.
And we can bring our RPMs now back down to that sort of 1,500. There we are. Smooth that out for the passengers a little bit. Then we can just come on over to the gate here.
Flaps up.
This is probably not the correct way to exit the runway there, but that's okay. And my frame rate really dipped coming into Burbank here. Let's go to the outside view here. Didn't line that up very well at all, but that's okay. And there we are. We have arrived. Everything worked out fairly well there, so we can go ahead and set our parking brake and then really shut down just like any other aircraft. We're just going to bring our mixture all the way back. Oh, we got our flight attendant checking this out. So there we are. If you wanted to go through the whole shutdown procedures, it's, you know, fairly simple. If you wanted to bring out your clipboard again and do things like the stairs and get everything all you know, looking, we can pop on the chocks, get everything all set there, and then when you come out to the outside, you can see we're all set up for everybody to disembark. But I hope that helps show how you can fly this without using the AI, how well it actually flies, and that it is a fantastically fun plane. I really am looking forward to trying to recreate some of TWA's flights with this. But for now, if you have any questions, please leave me a comment down below. Please like and subscribe. And until next time, have some happy flights and silky smooth landings. Take care.